So, when I start working with someone new, we obviously talk about like kind of what are the goals we're optimizing for during our time together. And a common word that usually comes up is fulfillment. And, in the corporate world, in the spiritual world, I guess just period, that word fulfillment gets thrown around a lot. Um, and I think people are actively seeking that. But I don't think they know quite what that means, how it feels, or even just like how to find it, right? And so I wanted to talk about that today because I think the biggest misconception out there is that if you do something you love, you're always going to have fulfillment. Welcome back to another episode of the Higher Alignment Podcast, where high performers come to grow without stress, shame, or burning out. I'm Minh-Thu, and I'm here to help you work smarter, live fuller, and feel like yourself again. If you're tired of running on empty, book your complimentary assessment call at higheralignmentconsulting.com/program, and let's figure out what's draining your energy and what you can do to start feeling happy and peaceful once again. You can find the link in the show notes. Now let's get into the episode. Now, do I believe that to an extent? Yes. However, I do think that what we quote unquote love can change over time. And I also think we get that initial feeling of fulfillment conf- and love. Like we get them confused or we don't quite understand what they are. Because, for instance, let's say when you start a new career, okay, like if I go back to my time at my old industry, like in the beginning, you will often feel fulfillment towards things. Why? Because you're accomplishing something, right? Now, if we think about that word accomplishment, where does that usually come from? Well, again, if I use my original, like my last career as an example, um, I never really loved the industry. I didn't even know the industry was like, it never even crossed my mind that I was going to go into it. I was in the automotive world. Never on my thought path as like something I would do. Didn't even think of it as an option for me. I just kind of fell into it from knowing someone. And so, first off, there was nothing there, quote unquote, that I loved about it, right? However, did I find fulfillment from it in the beginning or what I thought was fulfillment? Yes, because I was accomplishing things, right? So if you think about every time you close a sale or acquire a new client or get a big project underway, like anytime you do that, there's a sense of accomplishment, right? And so then when we accomplish something, we give ourselves a pat on the back. We maybe get a pat on the back from our superiors or from our team. Um, the pat on the back may come in the form of a financial gain. Like there's lots of quote unquote external metrics that kind of give us this pat on the back and allow us to feel accomplished, right? And so then that accomplished feeling, we believe, is followed by fulfillment. However, if you think about what that accomplished feeling is, it really, underneath the surface, I always go back to the root cause, just ties back to connection and approval and love and validation, right? Like if you guys have been listening to me for a while, everything comes back to the root. Everything comes back to the survival strategies and the program we saw when we were growing up. So for instance, if you grew up in a home where accomplishments, quote unquote, got you praise or connection or love, then that quickly becomes your survival strategy, right? So I was praised or quote unquote loved for getting good grades and being a great kid and working hard and, working hard with dance, like all these things I was doing. Now, did my parents love me regardless of my accomplishments? Yes. But oftentimes, and not to our parents' fault, we get real validation in those moments. And so as children, we go, okay, well, that was a nice pat on the back. I want more of that. I want that good job more often. I want that nod of approval from my parents more often. So then we quickly realize that if we accomplish more, we get the nod of approval, right? So translate that into being an adult. You, again, sign a new client, complete a task, complete a merger, whatever the case is, you get this pat on the back from your colleagues. And so it gives you this sense of accomplishment, which is just you being validated that you're worthy as a human. It's the connection, it's the quote unquote love or respect that you're looking for to validate that, like, oh, I'm doing a good job. I'm earning my keep, right? So then we get that simultaneously in the beginning where we think that's now fulfillment. That praise is fulfillment. And this is where I think people get it wrong, because fulfillment has to come from within, right? Like true fulfillment comes from being in alignment. I honestly don't think you are able to genuinely experience fulfillment unless you're in alignment with yourself, unless you are connected with the true you. And this is what I often see with my clients. They'll say like, well, I feel really fulfilled when I accomplish something or when I help people or when I get something over the line. And that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But that's still tied to some type of external validation, right? Where if fulfillment's coming from within and it's coming from a source of like, this genuinely just like feels good in my soul. This genuinely is just something that I actually enjoy doing and that nourishes me and that I do because it actually keeps me in touch and in tune with the real version of me, my true soul, my true heart. That's how you get real fulfillment. I spoke at an event last week, and in my keynote, I talked about how you will never get the fulfillment you're looking for if it's coming at the expense of your overall health and well-being. And so many people came up and talked to me about that exact line after. And so I wanted to dive into that deeper. Because if you're a high performer, 9 times or 90% chance that the way you've gotten to your position, your title, just the way you've achieved what you have in life is because you probably sacrificed yourself along the way, right? And first off, I want to start to say that, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that to an extent, right? I, at this event, talked to lots of kids in their 20s, which was really interesting. There was professionals in their 30s. There was C-suite people in their 40s. Like, it was a pretty wide range of people in this audience. And so I thought my message, honestly, was probably going to land with more of the 30, 40 plus crowd, but I had a lot of college students coming to talk to me too, which was really cool. And a few of them were asking me like, well, what can I do now to like get ahead of it, to make sure I manage my time properly and I don't burn out and I don't all these things. And one girl came up to me and she was so gung ho about just like taking every right step now so she doesn't have to go through burnout when she gets older. What can I do, Minh-Thu? What can I do? And I literally just said to her, I said, how old are you? And she said, 19. I said, you might not like this answer. I said, but this is the time where you need to just figure it out. You need to try everything. You need to just go balls to the walls. You need to just experience everything and anything for a couple of reasons. A, you got the time and energy. Like, think about how resilient we were when we were in our early 20s, right? So she has the ability to bounce back quick. And then the second thing I told her is the reality is you might not know exactly what you want yet. Right? Like you're fresh out the womb, you're just stepping into the world. So to know what really is in alignment with you is probably going to take a little bit of searching. So I actually don't think it's a bad idea to just put your head down and hustle at the beginning. Like you need to do that because you just need to see how the machine works, right? Like if your body's a car, like what does this thing drive like, right? And then after you've been doing that for a while, and you start to be like, hey, I know what I'm capable of, then it's like, okay, so now we can refine the strategy, right? So I'll be honest, most of my clients come to my youngest clients are like late 20s, 29 type thing. And then they span into the 30s and the 40s. I've brought on a few more clients that are even older lately, again, owners of businesses and executives. But once you've kind of done, let's say 10 years in the game and you realize what you're capable of, but you also realize that this level of sacrifice isn't sustainable long term, you start to ask some deeper questions, right? All right, if you're a burnt out executive or high performer, chances are you're on a 3 to 4 month cycle of burnout, meaning the first few months, you're high energy, productive, and making it happen. And then once that third or fourth month sets in, you're exhausted, irritable, snappy, and ready to give it all up. Now, there are two main reasons you get stuck in this cycle that no one talks about when it comes to stress management information out there. So I've put this together in a short video called The Real Reason You're Burnt Out. I put it in the show note links. So take the 12 minutes to watch this video and let this be the first step to you getting off this hamster wheel of burnout. All right, guys, back to the episode. Are there trade-offs to building a great career and life and all these things? Yes, but you have to ask yourself, what is the cost of those trade-offs, right? And so when I go back to saying that the fulfillment that you're looking for will never come if it keeps coming at the expense of your own well-being, what I mean is every time you ignore your needs or you betray your true values or you abandon yourself for the sake of productivity or success, all that does is it creates a wedge within you. And it creates this level of disconnect, which is the root cause of burnout. You guys have heard me say this before, right? Burnout doesn't just happen because you have too much on your plate. Burnout happens because you become so disconnected from the real version of you and the version of you that's wearing this mask that now there's space for anxiety and overthinking and perfection and control and all these things to seep in. And you feel like that's the only way you can live your life and be successful, right? So every time you ignore your needs by, again, answering emails till 10 p.m. at night or working on weekends or working on your vacation or working through your lunch. Like every time you do this, what you're essentially telling your body is like, I don't care if you're tired or hungry. We're just going to keep working anyways. Right. And so on one level, you think, well, I'm just doing what it takes to be productive, right? To make things happen. But on a very deep subconscious level, what you're reinforcing to yourself is I'm actually not worth food. I'm not worth a break. I'm not worth a nap. You know what I mean? And I talked about this in one of my last episodes about inner child work, but it's like if you have a child or a niece or a nephew and they come up to you and they go, I'm really tired right now and I'm hungry. Would you go, okay, well, as soon as you are productive for a few hours, I'll let you eat and have a nap. Right? That would be absurd, right? Like go clean your room, go do all your homework, and once you show me you've been productive, I'll reward you with some food and some sleep. Right? Like that's ludicrous if you did that to a child. But every time we do that to ourselves as an adult, are we violating any like humane laws? Like technically no, because it's self-inflicted and you're an adult and you can make those decisions. But also to your subconscious, it's saying that like, oh, the only way we get anywhere in life is by ignoring our basic needs. So then you get stuck in this cycle, right? But then again, the problem with that is how are you ever supposed to get real fulfillment knowing that you're like betraying yourself on the back end? Right? It's almost like this like a business deal gone bad, like some dirty business where it's like, it's like, well, I'll sell you this, but I'm going to cut corners on the back end. Like it's kind of the same thing. Like I'll do all these things to be successful and get the accolades and get the pat on the back and get the recognition, but I'm going to be like super unhealthy in the process and like honestly somewhat toxic towards myself because I won't even let myself like eat on time or take a break or go to sleep at a certain hour. Like that's like sweatshop vibes. You know what I mean? Like if we think about people in these third world countries who have terrible working conditions, we almost put ourselves through that as well too. And the trap is we think that that's the only way to be successful. Like we've created that in our own minds, right? But then you wonder why you wake up one day and you feel resentful and exhausted and not fulfilled by the work you're doing. I know I had this biggest realization again, going back to my career, because I felt fulfilled. I thought I was fulfilled for the first couple of years. And then let's call it year 5, I start waking up going, is this it? Is like, what is going on? Like I did everything everyone's supposed to. The paycheck has gotten better. The title has gotten better. The cars have gotten better. So why do I actually feel worse than I did when I first started? And it's for that exact reason, is because through those 5 years, I was constantly ignoring my basic well-being and needs. I was so convinced that I just had to constantly prove and perform and please. But then again, when these things, the productivity and quote unquote success come at the sacrifice of your own well-being, it's like, well, then of course you're going to wake up one day and resent it all, right? It's like being in a relationship with someone, again, whether it's a kid or a partner, where it's like you never let them eat dinner with you. You never ask them how they are. You never let them get to bed on time. And then you expect them to be happy with you. It's the same thing we're doing to ourselves, right? But then again, that the craziness is it's so self-inflicted that we start to buy our own stories about why this is the only way we can build success. I remember I've told this story in another episode. Like, I had a partner who did equivalent things with me, or equivalent. We did the same level of job. When I was there, I was him. When he was there, he was me. We were interchangeable. And I remember one day I had a client coming in after my shift, so he was going to take care of it for me, and I decided to stay late. And my boss had popped his head into his office. He's like, "Oh, you're staying late?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, such and such is coming, and I just want to make sure everything's done right." And he's like, "Well, why don't you get Bob to take care of it? He can do it for you." I was like, "Oh, no, it's okay. Like, I'll just stay. Don't worry." And he's like, "All right, well, it's up to you." And what I realized was like, my boss wasn't expecting me to stay late to do a good job. He has a counterpart for me that is here to relieve the work. I wanted to do it because I wanted to be in control, and I wanted to be quote unquote perfect, and I wanted to do everything my way, right? So then I was the one who was violating my boundaries, not my boss or the work environment. It was me. And again, like, I would say 8 times out of 10, it's typically our own doing. So if you're in this cycle or this place right now where you're like, man, I've done everything right, and I don't know why I don't feel fulfilled. And then again, you're thinking worst case scenario, I got to quit jobs. I got to move. I got to do all these things. And you're just trying to figure it out, or you're trying to tell yourself, but I should feel grateful. Like, this is a good gig. I have it good. Why I should feel grateful. And you're sitting here trying to convince yourself. It, I'm here to tell you that it has nothing to do. I shouldn't say nothing. It can be a small part to do with what you're actually doing for work. But the bigger part of it is how you are relating to yourself, and how you're relating to productivity, and how you're relating to stress. And it's that relationship that's causing this inner turmoil, and this lack of fulfillment, and this lack of drive, and this lack of motivation and energy. Because I could throw someone else into that role probably, and they might come in bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and you're no different than them. In fact, you're probably more capable than them. So what's the difference? Again, it's been what have we been chasing in the process to get here? What has been the strategy that we've used to quote unquote find fulfillment, just to be left high and dry? So what I'm posing to you today is that if you're in this search for fulfillment right now, don't start by looking for it in like what it is that you need to do. That's part of it. But the other part of it is in how you're relating to yourself, right? Because I've seen it many times where people quit their job and they go into another different industry. And yeah, they might have a good run. Maybe they are a good 4, 5, 10 years. But if they don't fix those behavioral patterns, they end up in the exact same place. Like, I've told myself multiple times that if I don't manage my stress properly building this business, especially my coaching business, my burnout business, I will end up in the same place as I did in my last career. And I'm the one preaching about burnout, right? But I have to be very strategic and very intentional to not let my high performer tendencies take over. Not saying that I don't want this business to be successful. Of course I do. I'm very proud of what I've accomplished so far and the people I've helped. But I don't let it come at the expense of my needs like it used to. And because of that, that means I have a chance of a really sustainable long-term business and career, because I don't need to think about retirement if I really love what I do, right? Now, going back to that original thing of like, does fulfillment come from loving what you do? Like, yeah, I think there's an element of it. Like, I love helping people and coaching people through behavioral things, and I didn't love cars. Like, don't get me wrong, I worked with some really beautiful cars. I worked with Mercedes, so like it was a treat for sure. But like I didn't know anything about cars before I started. No passion for cars. It's what I fell into, and I ended up being really good at it. But do I genuinely love like understanding the human psyche and helping people suffer less and helping people level up? Yes, I genuinely love that. But again, it doesn't matter how much I love it. If I build this business again at the expense of my own health and my own well-being, that love will dwindle. And I will wake up one day feeling the same way, asking myself, how did I get here? Is this it? It's the same thing when they talk about relationships. Like, yeah, love is a big part of it, but that's not all of it. If you love someone, but you don't have the same lifestyle, you don't treat your body the same way, you don't have the same views on health or religion or politics or just what it takes to show up in a relationship, it doesn't matter how much you love that person. Chances are slim that it's going to work, right? Like there has to be more than just the love. And beyond all of that too, even just to the relationship point, you just have to have someone who wants it as bad as you do, who's willing to put in the effort and the time to make the relationship work just as much as you. And I'll be honest, when we're talking about a career, like it's typically one-sided, right? Whether you're running your own business or you're employed by someone, the reality is they might want to keep you on as an employee. That's very possible. Hopefully they do. And yeah, if you have a business, you've maybe clients and a team who obviously value and you want to keep you there. But it's really up to you to maintain the health of that relationship. It's like business will typically suck everything it can out of you. That's just the reality if you let it. So when it comes to seeing beyond the love or seeing beyond just the fact that you desire it in the moment, it also comes back to how you relate to it. And also knowing that again, love will change, right? And what you're passionate about now might not be what you're passionate about in 10 years or 20 years or whatever the case is. And that doesn't mean you have to give up your business and everything you built. But when you've built a business and it hasn't costed you your health, your relationships, or your happiness in the process, even when you start to shift maybe out of love or maybe want to do something different with your life, it's not going to feel like you're trapped. You're not going to feel like you're trapped. Or you're not going to feel like, oh my God, I gave this my best years. What am I going to do now? Like you're going to feel more free and empowered to be like, wow, we had a good run. And like, yeah, I'm ready to either do something different or switch over. It's not going to be this feeling of desperation of like, I just need more fulfillment in my life. It's going to come from a place of, wow, that was really fulfilling. And I'm excited to see what comes next. To wrap up this episode, again, fulfillment doesn't come from just like loving what you do. I think that's a piece of it. But it comes from nourishing yourself in the process as you build something, as you stretch your capacity, as you reach for new goals. Because again, it doesn't matter how many accomplishments you check off your to-do list, nothing will bring you the fulfillment you're looking for if it comes at the expense of your needs and well-being constantly. Every once in a while, maybe. But if that's your consistent pattern of relating to yourself is, who cares what I need? Doesn't matter. Put myself last. You're going to burn out. You're going to lose fulfillment. You're going to lose confidence. You're going to lose self-trust. And then you're going to wake up one day and be like, how did I get here? So if you're trying to correct this behavior, the first step is start listening to yourself, start listening to your body. What do I need on a very basic level? Do I need more rest? Do I need more nutrients? Do I need more connection time and hugs? Do I need more play and laughter? Do I need more sleep? Do I need to go to the bathroom? Like just what do you need right now? And then as you start to get back in tune and you nourish yourself and you start to get your energy and your body back to ground zero, then you can start asking some real questions about like, do I want to stay here anymore? Do I want to keep doing this? Is this bringing me the fulfillment I'm looking for? Am I looking for something different? You can ask that question with more clarity and have a clearer response, a more in tune and integrated response. Where if you do that when you are sleep deprived, you're energy deprived, you're happiness and joy deprived, you're not going to get a great answer. It's going to be a very reactive survival mode answer. You want an answer built in confidence and self-trust. And the only way to do that is to show up for yourself in the process. Thanks for tuning into another episode of the Higher Alignment Podcast. If you got something out of this episode, I would ask that you please go subscribe and leave the podcast a 5-star review so that it can help find its way to other people who are having a hard time and need support. My mission in life is to help executives realize that you don't need to suffer in silence while still performing at a high level. I want to help free people of the heavy pressure they carry on a day-to-day basis, and having more people listen to this podcast will do just that. So wherever you listen to this, please go leave it a 5-star review, hit subscribe so you never miss another episode, and we'll see you in the next one.